Okay, hello and welcome to those of you joining us. Thank you for being here for this conversation. Today's webinar is transitioning from one child to two. And I am here with Michael and Alex and Lindsay, and they'll tell you about themselves, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself first. I am, first of all, on the East Coast. We have East Coasters and West Coasters here today, although for those of you who hadn't yet signed on, we said that coffee is appropriate at any time of day once you're a parent. By all means, enjoy. I am a clinical psychologist, a parenting coach, an author, a speaker, and I specialize in early childhood and promoting social emotional health among kids. And I am also a mother of two boys. Henry is 7 and Zeke is 5. Zeke is home today and may come in. I'm in my older son's room. People say, oh, that's such a cool office. I'm like, no, it's a loft bed that I am underneath. And Zeke may come in. We are down a sitter today. And so again, that's a parenting struggle that many of you, I can imagine, can relate to. So I am going to hand it over to introduce themselves. Let's start with, we've got Michael and Alex Perry, who have Leander, who's 2 years old, and they're waiting on baby number 2. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves and then kick it over to Lindsay.
Yeah, I'm Alex Perry, and I'm a full-time mom of Leander, who's 2. We also have 2 bulldogs who are about 7. And we're expecting our second child in August, who will also be a boy.
And my name is Michael Perry. I am Leander's father, who is our 2-year-old son. And I'm also the founder of a startup company called Maple that's looking to make running your household easier and giving you tools to make being the best parent possible.
Thank you. And Lindsay, tell us about you. I know that you already have your 2, but Cameron, who's 6 months, is relatively new, and Taylor is 5. So it sounds like we both have 5-year-olds. Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So my name's Lindsay. I'm the COO here at Hatch. And like you said, I have a daughter, Taylor, who's going to be 5 in about a month, and a son, Cameron, who just turned 6 months old 2 days ago. So I am newly into the land of 2 and definitely trying to figure out all the logistics and navigation and all the things. So excited to get time with everyone and share as much as I can, at least over this next hour.
All the things. I love it. And I just want to what I'm excited about for this topic today is that it has nothing to do with the pandemic. And I think that's just a sign of where we are. Every topic I've given this past year, every talk has been on building resilience in kids and trauma and kids and parenting from home while you're working and quarantine. And this is just a topic that's been around since the beginning of time and will continue to be around since the beginning of time, which is having another child when you have 1 or more children. And it's just really nice to be talking about those sorts of things again. Just a couple of guidelines before we start our conversation. You can use the chat function to ask any questions during the event, and we will leave 10 to 15 minutes at the end to answer any participant questions. If you want your question to be private and not seen by all of the participants, feel free to use the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen. And to get started, it would be great if you could chat where you're located. I know someone already said they're coming from Munich, which is awesome. But where you're located and if you're pregnant and how far along you are, or if you just had a new baby when you gave birth, it's really lovely. You know, one benefit of this Zoom world is that we can actually hear from everyone in a way that we couldn't if we were in person. So we would love to engage with you around the world as we start our conversation. So Michael and Alex, at this point in your journey, you probably have many questions. So what I will say is, even doing this for a living and having a 5 and 7-year-old, I still have many questions. So I don't know that goes away, but why don't we start with you guys sort of asking a question of Lindsay or of me or both, and we'll see how the conversation unfolds from there.
Sure. I think our biggest anxiety or fear is that
Sorry, you just froze.
Are we back?
Now you are back. Yes.
Sorry about
Just
that.
as a heads up, it seems that we've, as a town, have been having electric and internet issues for the last 24 hours. So if our power goes, there is a possibility we may have some technical issues.
Okay. Well, as we know from having kids and being parents, we have to roll with the punches and be
That's
flat.
right.
And so it'll be good practice.
Well, we'll join with our phones if we have to, but yeah, we're dealing with some power issues here in Santa Barbara County, so our apologies.
I think our biggest fear and anxiety having a 2-year-old and having him be our whole world right now is just how is he going to transition into this new world with a baby? I'm with him all day long. And how can this be less stressful for him? Do either of you have any tips on what's worked for you? Make your child be a part of the journey instead of feel like they're on the outside of it.
And not only has he been our whole world, as we've been like a small bubble cluster for the last 18 months. We went into the pandemic, he was 8 months old. But like we're his whole world.
Yeah.
And I don't think he recognizes how I would say like a very mommy's boy. And I don't know if he recognizes the transition that may be taking place here in a couple months in terms of time allocation needing to shift a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're a little nervous / stressed / afraid for him.
Sure. So I certainly have some points to make, and then Lindsay, clearly I want to hear from you. My kids are 21 months apart, and Lindsay's years are further. So when your baby was born, I guess your older one was what, 4 or 4.5? Is that?
Yeah, they're 4.5. They're basically 4.5 years apart.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of a difference there. And I think when you say, Michael and Alex, that you think Leander probably has no idea what's about to hit him, you are 100% right.
Yeah.
I think that's true with older kids too, although they have a slightly perhaps better idea. They've seen some friends have siblings and that sort of thing. So first, just to alleviate anything you might be feeling in terms of your own stress and anxiety, yes, that's exactly what you should be feeling right now, right? That's what everybody feels right now. There's no one who's like, oh, this is, no worries. It's going to be cool for me, cool for my kid. There's a lot to be nervous about because nervousness comes up when it's the unknown, and there's a lot of unknown.
Yeah.
And I think just embracing that feeling, as unpleasant as it is, and knowing that you can't actually control this experience for yourself or your child. And so there can be kind of a freedom in that, right? Leander, as much as he's only 2, is also already his own person.
Yes. Very, very much his own person.
Right. You are not in charge of how he feels and how he experiences the world. And you can absolutely do everything you can to kind of scaffold it in a way. And I certainly have some tips for how to do that. But his journey is going to be his own. And there's kind of a freedom in that as parents, I think. I think the biggest thing I would say that I speak with new parents about a lot, or parents of a new sibling, is letting Leander have all the feelings. Parents will say to me, how do I make sure that my older one loves his baby sister? Or how do I make sure that, this is going to be a great time for him? And the answer is you can't. No one will say to you, I would imagine people are already saying to Leander, aren't you so excited to be a big brother? Aren't you so excited to be a big brother? No one says to you, aren't you so excited to be parents of 2? Aren't you so excited to be parents of 2? Right? Because we know it's complicated. Like, yeah, I'm really excited and I'm terrified and I'm nervous and I'm a little regretful and I'm, and for kids, it's the same. It's a lot of big feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And so just knowing that he's going to have big feelings,
Mm-hmm.
and that the best thing you can do is help him accept that that's okay. And one way to start doing that is to even just start modeling it, right? And say, I'm so excited that your new baby brother is coming during the summer. And it's going to be really different. And I'm wondering if there's probably going to be times I'm going to miss when our family was just the 3 of us. Right? And just setting the stage that this is not necessarily just going to be all peaches and cream amazingness. This is going to be some big feelings.
Right.
I think is kind of the biggest thing that I would say. The second thing I would say is that it's great when you mentioned, I think, Alex, to have Leander be a part of the journey. absolutely give him some control over things. What where are we going to put the loveys in the nursery if you have a nursery, or where, sort of let him be a little helper. um Also recognize that he wants to be your baby, right? And so when parents emphasize too much, like, you're going to be the big brother, you're going to be my helper, you're going to be my assistant, sometimes you see even more regression, because it's like, yeah, no, I'm not on board with this. Like, I actually want to be the baby. And so recognizing that he still wants that he's always going to be your baby. And if he starts talking baby talk or regressing in any way, which is really, really common, to embrace that, right? And say, oh, you're my little baby too. Oh, do you want me to change your diaper in this sweet little cute way that as opposed to, oh, you're the big boy now, which can lead to kind of potentially some resentment. Like, I don't want to be the big boy all the time.
Right.
I love that you.
That's why you're the professional here.
I missed what you said. You guys are going in and out, but it's
Sorry, I just said that's a brilliant point. I guess for me, yeah, I guess everyone's always done that. Like, I didn't realize it's kind of like a forced promotion, and they may not actually want the people leadership role. The career here in the House of Perry. That's a very, very good point.
So you guys are sort of going in and out. I don't know if you maybe want to switch to your phones. I'm not the tech expert. I will say that while you're going in and out, I'm thinking about that. Lindsay, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to also think about my own recent experience. And I think one of the things that I really tried to, one of the things I was anxious about also was just that, not having it be just the three of us anymore, especially because my kids are farther apart, that, and we did that on purpose because we loved our time with our daughter. And my husband and I both work full time, and we have crazy jobs, and we loved having that time, and we felt like we just wanted to really savor that. So I think one of the things I definitely made a point to do kind of my last 2 probably months of pregnancy was just really try to be as present as possible when it was the three of us, and to really like enjoy those last moments. So I felt like I was just getting the most out of that time, like taking her to do special things, and even just going out to dinner, the three of us, just moments that I knew, the dynamic was going to change. And I remember when my mom came in to take my daughter overnight when we went into the hospital, because I had a planned induction. So it was a little bit more like sort of methodically, at least somewhat methodically as best it can be, logistically planned out. And I cried when she left, because I just said, this is the last time, like, I'm going to see her as my baby, because the dynamic is going to change. My husband's like, why are you crying? And I'm like, because it's all going to change. And it was like a really overwhelming feeling, but I just tried to sort of let, to your point, let myself have those feelings and not overthink those feelings, and to just be as present as possible. And then on the other side, when we came home, this was actually really difficult, because I had also forgotten, even just for myself, like, how physically demanding labor is, and those first couple of weeks are when you're breastfeeding and getting no sleep and all those things. But really tried to power through and find and carve out a few moments a day where I could just be with my daughter. So to give the baby to my husband, or give the baby to a family member who came over, and go get, a donut with her down the street, or draw a picture with her on the counter, and just, really like connect with her very purposefully, and say, like, I still got you, kind of a thing. So that she didn't feel like, this whole wave was coming into the household, and just, there was never going to be that personal time again. And I think that I feel like that helped a lot. I mean, obviously I'm still very much in the early stages of it, but it was really, I think it really kind of eased things a little bit, and it helped kind of smooth the transition in, because she knew she was going to get that attention from us in a very like focused way those first couple of weeks.
Absolutely. And I would add to that that's actually, certainly very high on my list of recommendations when I work with clients, is to have is to have that special time and to name it, right? So like, this is special mommy and Leander time, and we're going to have this every day, even if it's 5 minutes, and this is special daddy and Leander time. And, oh, look, there's a picture of you up there. That's for the sound, right? No. Okay. Now I'm going to let.
Yes. Sorry.
Ah. So when you do both, I guess we get the feedback. But now we can't hear you. Okay. I'm okay. I'm going to say what I was going to say, which is the other thing that I think I would just add to what you were saying, Lindsay, is when you're having that special time, so special mommy Leander time, special daddy Leander time, to note that the baby's not there and how much you like that, because that's something that's kind of the elephant in the room for them. And we don't want them to internalize that feeling as a bad feeling and one they shouldn't be having and one that they feel shame about. So you can say like, oh, I'm so glad your baby brother's finally asleep and it's just us. I've been waiting for this. I miss when it's just us. I love your brother to the moon and back, but man, he's a lot. Those sorts of things. I will never, ever forget. And I wrote about this in my book when my little one was born, and I live in the suburbs of the city. And so I was driving and I had my mom there. I was grateful for that. And I was stopping at the local drugstore to get a prescription. It was like the least romantic errand. And I was going to just run out and get it. And then I decided I was going to take my older one into the drugstore to get a prescription. Like, it was hardly this like fancy getting a donut even. But I decided to take him into the drugstore with me. And I said, you get to do this special thing that, that your little brother can't. You're going to come get my medicine with me. And we went into CVS and I said, oh, Zeke's not here. High five. It's just us for a few minutes. And he high-fived me and he loved it. And when we got back to the car, I promise I'm not making this up, he gave his baby brother a kiss. It's almost as though if you make space for all the feelings that they probably have about this new member of your family and how complicated it is, and sometimes it's fun and sometimes it's lousy and sometimes they're jealous, and they can open their hearts to the baby brother because they're not threatened, because they feel like they're seen for who they are and what their experience is. And that is so much more effective at promoting their healthy transition than trying to do this kind of camp counselor, isn't this so much fun all the time type of approach.
I love all of this feedback, and I don't think that we have heard any of this before. It's always been make him feel like he's the big brother, or that he's the leader and that he shows the new baby what to do. So I love this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and you are the experts. You are the experts in him, right? To like state the obvious, I hope. Right. So Lindsay can speak to her experience. I can speak to mine as a mother and kind of more professionally. Leander may just want to be the leader. And so like that advice was spot on for you and your family. I think it's more just kind of being aware of how nuanced it can be and being open to the fact that if that doesn't seem to really be jibing with him, some of these other reasons why. If that ends up being kind of feeling most natural and authentic to you and he seems to love it, then there's no need to kind of circle back and do it differently. I agree with you, Alex, that this perspective is often one that's missed, because again, nobody says to you like, oh, you've got a brand new baby, isn't it the best, are you so excited, oh my god. You're like, no, I'm exhausted and it's hard and I'm just getting used to it and I can't even figure out left from right. And our kids feel a version of that as well.
Yeah. And Lindsay, to your point as well, I've been having anxiety about going in and delivering this new baby and then everything being totally different. So that was really helpful as well.
Yeah. And I also want to normalize a feeling that a lot of parents talk to me about, which is a feeling of that they're betraying their first somehow. Yeah. And it's something that parents kind of feel shame, like, I know that's crazy. I know that I want them to have a sibling and that that's good. This is so crazy that I feel that way, and they push it away. But that's a real feeling. Yeah. Right. And again, just sort of like Lindsay said, to honor that as a feeling. It's not dangerous to feel that. I remember feeling so guilty that I had this baby in my belly and I felt like he was going to be a bit of an intruder.
Right.
Like I just wasn't that into him. He wasn't real yet, but I remembered how loving I felt toward my first when he was in my belly, and with my second feeling like I don't know that I'm gonna like you as much, and I don't know that I really think you're part of our family. Like and feeling like really ambivalent, and those feelings are okay. And sometimes they pass. Parents will say, and then the second I saw my little one's face, I realized my heart grew and we were all going to be a family. Other people say it took me a little while. For me, I think it took a little while to feel really loyal to my little one. And it happened when my big one bit him. When my big one bit my little one. And it was actually, I remember it so well. It was like a rainy day. It was one of those, like, just something was bound to go awry. And my big one, I was nursing or something, and my big one came. Sometimes when I was nursing, he would nurse too. He would nurse his fire engine, but he was not nursing his fire engine at the moment. And he came over and he just bit Zeke, and I found myself for the very first time protective of Zeke. Right, for the very first time, it was like, no, you don't hurt my baby.
Wow.
As opposed to, it's kind of me and you again, and it was just this really interesting moment of like, oh, I guess I am kind of mama bear to them both now.
Right.
But it took a little while, and that's okay.
That's comforting to know. I mean, I definitely feel I'm not carrying a child, so my experience obviously is radically different than maybe Alex's, and obviously very different than your guys's. But I definitely feel the guilt of like, damn, I do feel like my son's gonna like look at me one day and be like, why did you do this? Like, why did you bring this new thing into our house? Like, we had a good thing going on here. And just like, we're excited. And I think that, you zoom out 10 years when we have older children and they're going to be so thankful and happy that they have a built-in best friend and love each other. But it's just like the bracing for impact, feeling of weight of like, this is not going to go as how you see it in the movies with him like holding his brother and smiling and kissing his face. They can go like the exact polar opposite, and how I'm trying to mentally prepare myself to, I guess, emotionally be okay with that. Because I'm going to feel, I think, terrible when I see that for the first time with him like breaking down and freaking out. I'm going to be like, wow, my worst fears just came true as it relates to bringing Solomon home. I don't know if you feel that or not, but I certainly feel nervous about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd also say like at least for our family, my daughter was up until for the first like 3-4 months, she was pretty much like indifferent. Like he was just this kind of like blob that was around. And last week, she made him belly laugh for the first time. Like first belly, like real belly laugh was because she was playing with him and she was teasing him. And the way that he looked at her and she looked at him, like that was what made it all fit. And she was so proud that she made him laugh because and we made a big deal out of that. And that was like, it was just a really special family moment to have. And it kind of, made a lot of that like earlier angst and anxiety worth it. It was just awesome. It was just an awesome moment.
Great.
I have
I think he was about to say he has a question.
Oh no, I'm so sorry that our internet is
Okay, no, it is what it is. Come on, we're parents. We roll with the punches.
We'll push through. I've been working from home, building a company, and that's been, I think, challenging with a 2-year-old at home for a lot of different reasons. Certainly has been a tremendous sense of guilt trying to focus at work and hearing my son have a meltdown and like me wanting to interrupt my day and go be a supportive partner and things like that. What are some ways you think that I could start pre-preparing a life with 2 as I am entering back into the workforce with 2 children here coming off of parental leave? And what are some ways you think as a working professional I can best support my partner during that transition?
Lindsay, do you want to take this one first and then I'll jump in?
I don't know if I have a good answer to that.
Be an honest one.
I'm still trying to figure that out on my end as well. I think I'm fortunate enough that I live about 10 blocks from our office. So I really do try to, and we have not officially reopened yet, but we're open in a very sort of like light way. And I frankly have been trying to sort of like just have a little bit of separation because it is really hard for me. Especially when I'm on, an investor call or a meeting that has a lot of gravitas to it, when I hear, a temper tantrum going on outside the door, and to not, even just to not be distracted by it and be able to, sort of be true to myself and what I want to be bringing to the table as an operator of business. So I don't really have a good answer to that. I've struggled with it too,
It's
for
hard.
sure.
Yeah.
Which I think is a great answer. So you do have an answer for
Yeah.
it. Because what's implied in your answer is you just do it.
Yeah.
Like you just do, like somehow all these calls you've had with investors and all the meltdowns that you've had to endure, like they've all happened. Like they're not happening right now, right? So like somehow you did it. And some, that is a little bit of it, is just knowing, even if you feel like you're not doing it or you can't do it, it's happening, right? You're doing it.
Yeah, I guess I also do feel like, I know we're not really talking about pandemic related stuff in this, but I do feel like there has been a very big shift in the way that people interact with each other who are parents, and people who, and whether you're within the same company or talking to an external partner or talking to an investor, there is just like, I feel there's a tremendous amount of more empathy now than there ever was for navigating a situation like this. And so, I do sort of just kind of go with it because I do know, and people understand and they get it. And, 8 times out of 10, the other person on the other side has the same dynamic going on, and they understand. So I think there's a lot more humanity that's now infused into, just as a base layer in all of our conversations, which is actually really great compared to where we were before.
Absolutely. And also, I think one of the things that's shifted along those lines is the importance of that dads can be a real part of that as well. That I think
Mhm.
been written about a lot since the pandemic, that there's no reason that dads shouldn't play that same role in kind of home work integration. I would add a very kind of pragmatic and concrete tip, which is just to get some help when you can and where you can, that there's no shame in that. I remember one of the best pieces of advice I got, I had my second before the pandemic and my husband was still commuting from the city. And so that 5 to 7 block, I remember someone saying, if you're going to be alone in that 5 to 7 block, get someone to come in just for that time. And it was like the best, like by that point, I was so tired. I remember thinking that person would mostly be with my older one, but it ended up being the opposite. She just hung out with the baby. But whatever it was, I just needed an extra pair of hands. And it was that time with dinner and bath and nursing and the bedtimes at the same time. Because your Leander is probably going to go to, like before the schedule happens. And so just not to, you don't have to get a full-time nanny, or you can get that too. Again, I don't know your situation, what you're going to do, but just to get some help, I think, is the first thing. I think the other thing I just want to say, which is hopefully potentially helpful, is that you're lucky in that your company, Michael, is related to parenting and family. And so it's not like you need to kind of put parenting away and focus on writing your, art history critique. It's all, you can use it. I mean, I wrote my book, gosh knows how, when I had an infant and a toddler. And part of it was because things would happen and I would quickly do a voice memo, on my phone of like, the baby's crying and the toddler this, and how am I supposed to do, and then I would build it into the book. And I would imagine that, I don't know a ton about your app and I clearly need to look into it, but I would imagine that some of your experiences are going to be helpful from a business development perspective.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I feel very fortunate that we're building a company that our mission is about improving the quality of life of families. And so we have to practice what we preach. And I have a very supportive team at Maple, a lot of working parents at Maple. And so we've always asked people to put their families before the company. And so I'm sure my team, who's probably listening to this, is all prepared for me to take, even in a small startup, some time away to be able to put my family first. I have no concerns on that front, and very, very thankful that my personal values and our company are neatly aligned. I think that there's like the general concern of ignorance is kind of bliss. When Leander was brand new to our family, I got in a car, like your husband, and commuted into the city from the East Bay, and I would leave work early to come home, but I kind of ability to help. My own ability to help and participate during the day was non-existent. During the pandemic and working from home in that shift with a 2-year-old and with a pregnant wife, I have had lunch with my son. If I hear him having a meltdown, sometimes I'm on an investor call, like Lindsay says, and I have to ignore it and have that discipline to move forward. And other times I'm like, I got to step away from my desk for a second and try to help out. I have a tremendous amount of anxiety for the first time being home with a 3-month-old, not knowing really what's kind of going on from 9 to 5, so to speak. And if I'm going to be able to, I don't know, it's hard to want to be the best parent possible and to hear what's going on in the background. And you also have to be the best employer possible, and be the best, husband possible, and best this possible. And it's a nervousness for me that's kind of hard for me to articulate well, just because I don't want to fail my family, and I also don't want to fail my company. And it's a weird thing of not showing up for the right group at the right time, that I'm personally trying to find the balance, and I'm definitely struggling with.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, we've been talking about help, but being a full-time mom, I think you carry a lot of guilt.
Right.
Right. That I am a full-time mom and I'm thinking about getting help from someone, especially where he's running a company. So I love that you brought that up.
I thought it was great. I also thought it was interesting, doctors, that we've never talked about a nanny or support system coming in to take care of the baby. It's always been like, we need someone to come in to help with Leander. But there's an interesting thing there about, actually, back to your earlier point about creating that alone time for the eldest and making him feel special, and utilizing support in that way is, I don't know, I guess it didn't really dawn upon me that it doesn't have to be necessarily a nanny coming and taking care of Leander. It could be the inverse. It could be someone coming and taking care of Solomon.
It could be a college student. It can be again, it can be, but I think I'm so glad, Alex, that you named that guilt. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but like, get rid of the guilt. We are grateful, we are privileged, we are able to get help, and you will be better for it. And so will your family. Along those lines, Michael, just in terms of what you just said and setting expectations, I can't speak to whether this will happen at your company. I can tell you that you will fail your family over and over again, and then you will repair it. And then you will fail them again, and then you will repair it. And same with you, Alex, and same with Leander, right? This is all going to be a giant, imperfect, hot mess.
Yeah.
And we know 100% from the science, truly, that the most important thing when it comes to parent-child relationships and family relationships is rupture and repair. The ruptures will happen over and over again, and that's how the relationships deepen. So to the extent that you're setting high standards for yourself, I think that's great. I think, I can hear in your voice and see in your face how devoted you are to being a dad and a business owner, and you're going to mess up 100 times in a single day.
Oh, I do. I think it's already knowing that. I'm sure Lindsay and everyone feels the same way, who's trying to be an operator as well as, or an entrepreneur as well as a parent. Like, tough life lessons are inevitable. It's just hard when you are affecting the people who are giving their time to your company. And it's also hurtful when you're affecting the person who didn't choose to come onto this earth, and that you brought them here and that you love them at the highest level. And I don't know, parenting is a practice of being okay with the imperfections of yourself. And I'm just trying to be at ease, I guess, with that. And I just don't want to negatively impact my boys.
Yeah, and I guess I would also just add, just back to one of the comments that you guys just made a few minutes ago, like I still sometimes feel like a tremendous amount of guilt asking for help, right? Because you think like as a parent, like you should be the parent. And, to me, I was always like, am I really going to be that mom that like has the extra hours or like has somebody on the weekends for a little bit or whatever it is. And my husband and I with my daughter, we talked on and off for years about like getting that extra hour of help at night, getting like that extra little bit of time on the weekend. And we felt so much guilt about it because we were like, well, we both work full time during the week. Weekends are family time. How could we ever break that up and whatnot? And as I was coming off of maternity leave and coming back into, really full on work in March, we decided to extend our nanny for just 1 hour a day to get that extra from 6 to 7, to get that extra buffer to just be able to like ease into transitioning back at home for us, for the kids and whatnot. And a little bit of relief every so often on the weekend. And it just makes, even just for my own mental sanity, for me, it makes the world of difference. And then I see how much it impacts the quality of time I get with my kids because, at night, we have a calmer bedtime routine and bath routine. And we have on the weekends, really amazing active time together. But then there are moments where I can give myself a little relief and go on a walk just by myself and to be able to like ground myself and then come back to my family in like in a better headspace, honestly, than just if I was, continuing to just stay on the hamster wheel and like go. And that I feel like that shift has been huge, not only for like my relationship with my kids, but for my relationship with my husband as well, because we're able to either get time together or balance more, and it's not just like a hot potato with kid time.
Yeah. And all those things are related, right? You cannot have healthy, happy, well-adjusted kids without healthy, happy, well-adjusted parents. And if you're in a two-parent family, the relationship between the parents is a part of that. I mean, this is all connected. And I know we have participants of all different kind of, levels of privilege. And I just want to emphasize that we can also be talking about hiring a high school student for an hour after school, right? This doesn't have to mean that you have an agency to find the perfect, child development master's nanny. And so it really is about just accepting that being a parent is really hard and really important. And that if you can regulate yourself and take care of yourself and actually enjoy your children, you're going to be a better parent. And you can do that if you are sleeping, if you are finding time to talk to your friends, if whatever it is. What your kids need in some ways is the quality more than the quantity.
Right.
The other thing I'll simply say about working at home or even working in an office is just how important the connectedness to your kids is, and that's something you can work on even when you're not physically present. So I'll just run down a couple of ideas that I talk to clients about a lot. One is, like sending Alex first thing in the morning 3 different videos of you, telling funny jokes or talking in a funny voice or wearing a funny hat, whatever that she kind of has on hand for Leander and maybe the baby when he's a little older, those sorts of things. Leaving little Post-it notes in places that Leander can look for during the day. Writing Leander a letter on your company's letterhead that you come home and you say, look, I did this for you during the day. Coming home and telling him the 3 times during the day that you thought of him in a very specific way. So not just, oh, buddy, I miss you, I love you, but, I had pizza for lunch and I remember that pizza is your favorite food. And as I took a bite, I was remembering at your birthday party when you had 2 whole pieces. Those sorts of things are so important at just solidifying that even when daddy's at work or even when mommy's at work, we are strong, we are solid. And then the last thing that so I'm only laughing because I do this a lot and it works, is you dress similarly, right? You say we're gonna be away from each other today, but we're gonna be twins, right? We're both gonna be wearing our orange t-shirts and our jeans. So like even though we're not together, I know that we look alike today. High five, right? And you can do that with like fake tattoos, little bracelets, just twinning. with kids is a really little thing that you can do that can be really powerful. I, for about 6 months, had a Paw Patrol tattoo on my.
You would love that.
Oh my God, my son, there's people on this call who are probably laughing. My son is the most Paw Patrol obsessed child. I need to like talk to him on Nickelodeon. It's like bonkers. I don't know what they've done in that cartoon, but it's like a whole nother level of obsession.
Yeah. So I had a Paw Patrol tattoo, and in the morning we would all put on a Paw Patrol tattoo, and that was like our family thing, and it kept us. Little rituals like that are incredibly meaningful for kids, and they keep the connectedness strong even when you can't be in the same place all day. So we only have about 15 minutes left. I'm feeling like unless either of you guys have kind of pressing things to say, we should maybe shift to some participant questions. Does that work?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so first one here. I've heard it's good to give child one a big sibling gift from parents. Not going to pretend it's from the baby. My question is, when is a good time to do this? Is it ahead of baby's arrival or once the baby's here? It really, I think that's a great idea, first of all. I also don't mind the gift from the baby, which is sort of like, dear so-and-so, dear Leander, I think you're going to be a great big brother. I'm so excited to meet you. Love, Solomon, because I think I heard you say it.
Yeah, Solomon, yeah.
I know we want to be honest with our kids. I'm a huge fan of that, but kids generally know it's not really from their, there's like that cute playfulness to it.
Yeah.
You're not lying. It's just kind of, you're setting the stage. And I think a big brother present is a really nice idea. A special present. It's also helpful, right? Like, it's like, oh, they can be occupied playing with this really cool new thing at times when I'm doing X. As far as when to do it, sometimes it's a logistical question. I've known families that do it in the hospital because it helps get the kid out of the hospital, right? They want to stay with mom and dad, but now actually they have this awesome new fire engine. So like, sure, let's get out of here. Other times it's at a welcome home. I don't actually think the timing is that significant, but good question. I think that's a really nice idea. Wondering how to facilitate good relationship building between my kids, 2 boys who fight constantly. I mean, that could be a whole seminar in and of itself. Certainly, I recommend the book. It's an old book, but it's still my favorite on the topic. Siblings Without Rivalry by Maslish and Faber, who are the same authors who wrote How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. And it's just a great book. I think the number one thing I would recommend is doing what you can to make sure that each child is getting their need for parental connection met, because that rivalry kind of increases when they feel like they're in competition, particularly for their most valuable resource, which is you. And that's natural, right? There is kind of competition between them, and the sibling relationship is really complicated. And so I would go, again, with the understanding I could talk about this for 45 minutes, I would go to that place that Lindsay mentioned at first, which is the special time, right? And really having, I'm going to have special mommy, in my case, special mommy Henry time and special mommy Zeke time for at least 5 to 10 minutes. That's all it has to be. The science says it only has to be 5 or 10 minutes every single day. And my guess would be that when you start implementing that, the fighting will go down and they will start connecting with each other more. So it's kind of going about it in a roundabout way, but it tends to be 9 out of 10 times that's kind of what's behind a lot of the sibling fight.
I'm sorry, doctor, what book did you say that was, the sibling book?
If I could multitask, which I can't anymore, I would put it in the chat. So I'm just going to say it slowly.
Yeah, I'm going to type it out here.
Yes, please do. Siblings Without Rivalry by Maslish, Mazli. I don't remember if there's a C in there, SH or SCH, and Faber, Faber. Siblings Without Rivalry. And it's easy to read, and it has comics in it. It's one of those books that if you get the hard copy, like even skimming it is helpful. It really is not an investment. Oh, and did you just put it in?
I didn't, but someone very generously did.
Someone wonderful. Okay, next question. Could you touch on tips for preparing to have 2 kids under 2? That was me. A lot of the stuff we talked about I think is fitting. You know, Leander is not going to be that much over 2, and my 2 were under 2. I think that the number one thing I would say, honestly, is to get some help if you can. Like truly that is my number one thing. And I hope that people are taking that message in a loud and clear way. And again, that it's not about privilege. It's not about hiring a nanny. It's about just recognizing that having 2 under 2 is really hard. There's certain hours of the day that are particularly hard, and giving yourself a break is going to be what makes that easiest.
I would also add on top of that, I'm like a very type A person. And so to me also, like, one of the harder things too about letting someone come in and help was like letting go a little bit of like, they're not going to do it the way that I would do it. And like a family member or like a mother-in-law or whoever like may not, or an aunt or whoever it is may not feed him at exactly the right time or change his diaper and put the cream on exactly the way that I would do it. And just to let go of some of that, because the greater good is like your own sanity time and the relief that you're going to get from the help, and not be as sort of like locked up. I mean, I think it's easier to do with the second kid than the first, because you're just, you know, more and you're a little bit more confident in that it's going to end up being okay. But that was really hard for me, was sort of just letting that go a little bit so that I could get the relief that we all.
That is a great point. Thank you. Someone just asked me for the name of my book. Thank you. It's called The Tantrum Survival Guide.
Perfect.
Tune into your mind and your child's mind. Tune into your child's mind and your mind to calm the crazy and make family fun again, I think. But it's The Tantrum Survival Guide. And someone helpful can put it in the chat again, or not. But thank you. All right, hold on. I'm just going through questions. I'm going to answer. That was the last one, and I answered it because I saw it first. But I'm going to try to scroll up to the top questions. To the top question. Do I need to buy books to read to my older one that a baby is coming, or getting a baby brother or sister? Yeah, it certainly couldn't. I mean, do you have to? No, I'm never gonna say you have to do anything. But that can certainly be really helpful. Getting those books about a new baby's coming, I'm getting a new baby brother, a new baby sister. Making your own book about it can be a fun thing to do. There's a great website, I think it's called Twig Tales, if I'm remembering correctly, where you can kind of personalize some books like this, like about getting a new sibling, about moving, about potty training. That can be a fun thing to do. Lindsay, it looked like you were going to add something.
I had a question for you on this, because we did those books with my daughter, and we would read the books about having a baby brother and even new baby coming. And I think this is a little bit also, I know a lot of people on this meeting have kids closer in age, and so your first was probably a little bit younger than mine, but Taylor, my daughter, would say, well, I don't want a brother, I want a sister.
Oh, wow.
And you know, she was like, you know, verbal enough and, you know, could connect those dots enough to know that. And I struggled with how to respond to that when I was reading her those books, because obviously I wanted her to be excited and, you know, all those things, but she was obviously going through that feeling of like, in her mind, she wanted a little sister and she was getting a little brother. And then even after I had the baby and I thought, all right, well, he's, you know, when he gets here, she'll be, you know, it'll be different and whatnot. And still to this day, she'll still sometimes say like, but I still want a sister. And I'm just curious to get your take on how to handle that.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It can also be more general with, but I don't want a baby sibling, right? Whether it's gender related or just kind of life related. And I would honor that feeling. I think that's a really valid feeling. I would say, oh, sweetie, I get that. Yeah, sisters are, you know, baby girls are cool. I totally get that. I wonder if there's also, you know, some things about having a baby brother that'll be awesome. You know, like I wouldn't say, I mean, the instinct is to say like, oh, come on, baby brothers are the best. Again, there you are with like camp counselor, right? But I think it's sort of like, oh, sweetie, yeah, you're a girl. And so there's something that feels really good about having another girl. Yeah. I wonder if there's a way that it's also going to be maybe interesting and cool to have a baby who's different, or a different girl or boy. Then you could get into certainly the whole conversation about, now there's all these politics about that. Who knows if they'll say a boy or a girl.
Right.
But I think, and same thing with, I don't want to read this book because I don't want a baby. I don't want a baby. I don't want you to be having a baby. And to say, like, I get that. It's going to be a big change. Okay. You let me know when you want to read the book. Right. Again, I think really just making space. And as parents, what I would say, like, put both feet on the floor and take a deep breath and know that, like, it's one moment in a really long journey. You know, it's not like, oh gosh, I've done the worst thing in the world and they're going to hate each other forever. And what, you know, and even still, so still when your daughter says, I wish you had a girl, or what, you know, say, yeah. And to help, you know, say, what would you do that you can't do with your brother? Like if you had a baby sister, well, we would dress up and she could be Elsa and I could be Anna, and, you know,
Right.
you know, you could say, well, I want to, you know, your brother may want to do that, but it's not the same. Yeah, you're right. It's a little different. Right?
Yeah, that's advice. Yeah.
My favorite book for kids, or one of them, is Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very, Very Bad Day, which is an old book by Judith Vorquist, I think. And it's about a little boy, an older, it's not for super little kids, but it's about a boy who's probably 7 or 8, and he has a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. The worst things keep happening to him. And it ends with, he says again, you know, again, I had a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. And then he says, my mommy says some days are just like that. And that's the end. And I remember when I read it, you know, and I've always loved it, and I read it, and my husband was there. He's like, but what, like, then when, like, does the next day has to be a good day, right? Like, then there's the next day where it's like, but then the next day is great. And it's like, no, that's not how it ends. It ends with just, some days are just like that. Like, some feelings that you want to have a baby sister are just feelings. Like,
Right.
okay. Let's see, other questions. So, okay. Any book I would suggest specifically for a new sibling? They come out all the time. No, there's none in particular. I think I just chose the top 3 about, like, having a new baby brother. If you know the gender, it can be helpful to, you know, have it be one or the other. Did any jump out at you, Lindsay? I know you had older kids, but as far as those books, none of them are like mine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, again, I would beware the ones that are super positive without any acknowledgement of the complication, but none of them blew my mind, to be perfectly honest. What are your thoughts on transitioning kid 1, who's 2, from a full-time nanny to a part-time daycare just before baby 2 arrives? We need space in the house and want our older son to socialize more. I think that if you can, I would have a little bit of space between those 2 transitions. And that's true with a lot of different transitions, whether it's transitioning your child from a crib to a bed, or potty training, or all, like, I just think older kids often regress in the skills that they have, and that includes emotion regulation when a baby is born. And so things that are going to potentially be difficult anyway become more difficult because they're using all their brain capacity to just sort of keep it together. Okay, wait, this person has she said, I think she means for parents. Oh, any book I'd recommend to suggest. Okay, Karen, I'm not entirely sure what you're saying, so I'm going to keep answering that last question. And you can add. And so I would try to, again, space them out if you can a little bit. And just I wouldn't share with your child that it's about needing more space for his brother, right? That feels a little bit potentially like you're setting up little brother not for success in terms of having big brother embrace. I think it's time for him to go, you know, it's time for him to go. Like, in other words, you see it as a systems thing. We are stopping the nanny because we need more room in the house. To me, it's more like, you get to go to school now. You know, like, you're a big boy and you get to go to school. And it doesn't actually have to do with the little brother. It has to do with the socialization piece, and potentially that the nanny is kind of moving on. And I would have a healthy goodbye with the nanny, and I would treat it as if it's sort of a transition that feels natural and good for you as parents, and it's your job as parents to decide what's a good move for your child, that doesn't actually have to do with the sibling, because that's the sense that I get, is that there's those other reasons as well, and to the extent that those can be separate, I think is the way that I would go.
That's actually something that we've been struggling with a little bit, I think, is that we don't have a nanny or an au pair. We don't have any help around us outside of our family. And we've been thinking about bringing in a part-time professional to kind of come help. And this, I think, call has really reinforced some of that thinking. Our concern definitely has been, how is Leander going to feel now? We bring a new baby home, and then we bring a nanny in to kind of help support. And we've been struggling on like the timing of that, support system. It sounds like, if I can just, because this is actually something that's very freaking me out, you're saying that it's probably good to create some separation between the events of having a child. So at this point, since we're almost in July and our baby's coming in August, probably should wait on a nanny for some time until the smoke settles a little bit, so our son isn't like correlating these events.
So I'm going to confuse things further, and we're going to have to stop in a minute and say no, because I think you are projecting a lot of your stuff onto that transition, right? That is you saying, oh my gosh, Leander's going to see it as somehow that the nanny's going to be a bummer and that we don't have room for him and so we have to hold on the nanny. The nanny can also just be someone really awesome who's coming to help out a little bit because you've got a new baby brother, right? And so I would actually say, again, you can wait, but not just for the sake of preserving Leander, right? Leander's, to me, the questions that you have versus the one that participant asked were different.
Okay.
And with both of those questions, also, your kids may have feelings, right? Your kid may not want to go to daycare, the person who asked that question, and Leander may not want a nanny. And that doesn't mean it's not the right decision.
Right.
Right? Your job as a parent is to set the limits and to make the decisions on what is the best and healthiest thing for your family. And it is your kid's job to have feelings about that. And those two things are completely separate.
Right.
We do have to stop, unfortunately. I know I didn't get to all the questions. I love that there were so many questions. Thank you, first and foremost, to Hatch for creating this wonderful opportunity. And Lindsay and Michael and Alex, it's been a pleasure. So thank you for your honesty and your guidance, Lindsay, and good luck. Let us know how it goes.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. Congratulations to everyone on the call too. It's an
Yeah.
exciting time.
For sure. So long, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.